And I definitely feel that if Rahul Gandhi has brought up this Great Nicobar environmental high risk project into play, which is going to convert an extraordinarily beautiful island where it is inhabited by very few people, which has got its own green covers, beautiful forests, and you're going to make that into create what, an international airport. Obviously there will then be some degree of hotels coming up, and use the pretext of tourism and airports, and down the line obviously you'll find the big corporate crony capitalists starting their own enterprises there. Don't be surprised. So clearly this government has zero interest or comprehension or understanding of what's good for the common people of this country.
Is Prime Minister Modi not worried about these things, except that he has to benefit the cronies, the crony capitalists, and therefore he comes up with a huge project called the Great Nicobar project?
Extreme climate or weather conditions. I don't think Mr. Modi really cares for all of it. I mean, after all, he won that narrative of the election on being that very humble, the humble origins, the chai wala narrative helped him become prime minister. But after that, as we have discovered, he's more of a emperor, right? He's more like a Shahenshah in a Rajtantra. There is no Loktantra in our country. Yahan to Rajtantra hai.
Hello and a warm welcome to HW News Network, your one-stop show, truth be told, for some engaging and thought-provoking conversations. On a treacherously political day, when West Bengal is polling and the last phase and the polling almost ending, senior Congress leader Rahul Gandhi today launched a sharp attack on the centre's Great Nicobar infrastructure project, describing it as one of the biggest scams and gravest crimes against the natural and tribal heritage of the country. Now, in a social media post after visiting Great Nicobar, the leader of the opposition in the Lok Sabha said, and I'm quoting him exactly what he wrote in his tweet, "I traveled throughout the Great Nicobar today. These are the most extraordinary forests I have ever seen in my life. Trees older than memory, forests that took generations to grow. The people on this island are equally beautiful, both the Adivasi communities and the settlers, but they are being robbed of what is rightfully theirs." Now, criticizing the scale of the proposed development, Rahul Gandhi said that the government calls what it is doing here a project. "What I have seen is not a project. It is millions of trees marked for the axe. It is 160 square kilometer of rainforest condemned to die. It is communities that have been ignored while their homes have been snatched away. This is not development. This is destruction dressed in development's language." This is exactly what he wrote. In fact, he's also done a video, and his video has been watched by lakhs and lakhs of people, and number of people have retweeted that video. And further on, he also says that, "So I will say it plainly and I will keep saying it. What is being done in Great Nicobar is one of the biggest scams and gravest crimes against this country's natural and tribal heritage in our lifetime." Now, let's talk about this Great Nicobar project. What is the government planning? The government plans to spend about 81,000 crores in this Great Nicobar infrastructure project. They are supposed to be coming up with a transshipment terminal. They are going to come up with a port. They are going to come up with a township. And what everyone is seeing through is that apparently this is for the benefit of no one but the Adani group. So we'll try and discuss this. First of all, the significance of this video coming on a day when West Bengal goes to polls. What is the significance of this particular video which has been put out by Rahul Gandhi? We'll try and understand that, and what does it mean as far as the ecological and the environmental disaster is concerned. We'll also look at various other infrastructure projects which are coming up in the country and how they are a hazard for India's environment, which no one is talking about. So does Rahul Gandhi bring the discourse on environment and ecology on the center stage? Joining me this evening is political analyst columnist, author, and former spokesperson of the Congress Party, Sanjay Jha, joins us this evening. And thank you so much, Sanjay, for joining. And the moment I saw Rahul Gandhi's video, and I was wondering that why Rahul Gandhi released this video today when West Bengal was going to polls. Some would say that everyone is talking about what is going to happen in Bengal, and here Rahul Gandhi changes the track and brings to the forefront the discourse on environment and ecology and what's happening to the Great Nicobar project.
Neelu, good evening. Wonderful to be back on your program again. The issue of ecology or the environment is frankly beyond an election cycle. And this is going to be a significant challenge for the country. We will get into the Great Nicobar project and its likely highly dangerous consequences for India's environmental health. But just look at one data point, which I think everybody's talking about these days, is that roughly 95 of the 100 hottest cities in the world is in India. It's telling you a significant message of how vulnerable we are as a community, or how susceptible we are as a society to any kind of climate change. Now, let's go back to this Great Nicobar project. You talked about an investment of how much? 81,000 crores, roughly. 81,000 crores. Let me tell you, the population of Andaman and Nicobar as a whole probably is around 4 lakhs. The entire Andaman and Nicobar is 4 lakhs. That particular area that you're talking about would be probably in thousands. That may not be even in the entire Andaman and Nicobar Islands, because it's scattered over several smaller islands. Now, here is the point. If that is an investment which is going to affect at a maximum 4 lakh people, think about the fact that Mumbai, whose population is around 24 million, has an annual budget of around 50,000 crores. I mean, can you see the enormity or the asymmetrical nature of what's going on? Again, the bigger point, why would you require in Andaman and Nicobar, anybody who does any basic research will tell you that it is primarily, obviously, a tribal population. And it has several very exclusive species. It's a marvel in biodiversity. I mean, if you are going to fell, and I don't know what the exact numbers are today, but when I read last, they were looking at targeting approximately close to 1 million trees to be felled down. And to what purpose? I mean, these are the questions that anybody will ask. And I can tell you one thing, Neelu, that it's not just the hottest heat wave that we're experiencing, which tells you it's obviously happening because India is frankly losing its forest and green cover. Look at another interesting data point. If you look at how much of the forest cover India has lost over the course of the last maybe decade or even a little more, you're losing forest cover equivalent to around 13,000 square kilometers every day. That's the number I have. 13,000 square kilometers. That's equivalent to, mini or a small state. It tells you of the kind of risks we are running as a country. And I definitely feel that if Rahul Gandhi has brought up this Great Nicobar environmental high-risk project into play, which is going to convert an extraordinarily beautiful island where it is inhabited by very few people, which has got its own green covers, beautiful forests, and you're going to make that create an international airport. Obviously, there will then be some degree of hotels coming up, and use the pretext of tourism and airports. And down the line, obviously, you'll find the big corporate crony capitalists starting their own enterprises there. Don't be surprised if it even has data server companies coming up there. So clearly, this government has zero interest or comprehension or understanding of what's good for the common people of this country. Before I take your next question, one last point. End of day, the tragedy for India's population, all of us as citizens, when you are governed by a political formation that only looks at elections, can go to an SIR to win an election, can subvert the entire institutional process to win an election, then all of us are extremely at high risk of being subjected to climate change catastrophes over the coming decades. And I hope the future generations are watching what is going on today.
I also want to talk about a tale of two pictures which we saw. Of course, one is Rahul Gandhi's video of he going through the rainforests of the Great Nicobar area, where he showed how the ecology was being played around. And the other picture is of Prime Minister Modi today at the Kashi Vishwanath temple. He's praying and he's performing the rituals, holding a trishul and a damru, and then he's doing a photo shoot as well. People could see how he was. I mean, what would you really say? And comparisons are very, very, natural for the people to make. So here you have a leader of the opposition who's talking about the Great Nicobar project, and here on the other side you have a prime minister who holds the trishul and the damru. What would you say to the priorities of the two leaders?
Well, it's pretty obvious. I'm sure your viewers who have heard a very pertinent question from you will know where your priorities are. The fact that India is one of the hottest countries, which, by the way, is not just a question of heat, it means how much of a damage it's going to do to agriculture. What does it mean in terms of water security, right? I mean, the kind of devastation is going to cause to harvestation. I mean, there are going to be huge costs being paid for this. I mean, I'm sure there are many people who are affected by it. I mean, official productivity levels come down when you face extreme climate or weather conditions. I don't think Mr. Modi really cares for all of it. I mean, after all, he won the narrative of the election on being that very humble, the humble origins, the chaiwala narrative helped him become prime minister. But after that, as we have discovered, he's more of a emperor, right? He's more like a Shahenshah in a Rajtantra. There is no Loktantra in our country. Yahan to Rajtantra hai. So he's like an emperor. Let's accept that. I mean, look at the way he's got a swag. I mean, everything is about him. I mean, I can't imagine a prime minister in the history of politics worldwide since the world began who's such a megalomaniac that there is so much of money spent to put him all over. I see him everywhere. And I'm like, bro, I've seen you for 12 years. And he's on the front page cover of all the newspapers, all the hoardings, everywhere. I mean, it's absolutely bizarre. So, I mean, absolutely, Mr. Modi, I don't think he cares for all of it. It's good that Rahul Gandhi is fighting the right fight. Truth be said, I really don't haven't been there to Andaman and Nicobar to this specific project. But if Rahul Gandhi is telling you there's 160 square kilometers that are vulnerable to this kind of deforestation, a rainforest is frankly everywhere abroad is a tourism adventure for people. To go to a rainforest to see birds, to see animals, to just experience being under the shade. And here we are bringing it down to create what? Power plants, give Adani some kind of an airport to manage, create some hotels where some crony will come in and do some kind of a launch with.
No, but what is your feeling, Sanjay, that is this Great Nicobar project only going to help people like Adani? And is it for Adani especially that this Great Nicobar project is being done up?
Well, let me tell you, I think, we keep talking of Adani, but Mr. Modi has got a coterie of industrialists who are feeding off him. And you look at those people who have got contracts in the defense sector, a lot of them really are crony capitalists. And they include, frankly, Adani, the Ambanis, of course, these two are the dominant faces. But there are others. There are Tatas, there are Mahindras. There are many groups which are really in the game. Recently, you even had a case of Vedanta taking on Adani, but Vedanta also has been a beneficiary of this government. So it is a nexus at play. But think about it, right? Go back to Aravali issue. One of India's oldest mountain structures or systems, and look at how that itself was being so brazenly taken over by government policies. And until everybody protested and the Supreme Court had to do a U-turn, you realize that even there, in broad daylight, there was a takeover happening. So I think what we are not understanding here is this, that when it comes to corporates, they're driven to fulfill the expectations of shareholders and the owners, obviously. Now, for them, things like ecology, environment, water security, quality of air. They matter, but they don't matter too much. For them, money at any cost really matters. Why do you think India is facing the kind of environmental challenge it is? Look at the ranking of India on the Environmental Performance Index, EPI. India ranks, it was at lowest in the world, lowest at 188. And I think it's come up now to 186.
Yes.
Maybe we should be thrilled with that. It's absolutely
In
abysmal.
fact, Sanjay, what you're saying, leads me to another question, and I'm just wondering what Prime Minister Modi's advisors actually tell him. Now, if you look at the topography of this entire area, these are dense tropical rainforests with mangrove systems, coral reefs, nesting beaches, and it is also a seismically active zone. And of course, because it shapes things like earthquakes, tsunamis, and cyclones, and nobody can forget ever what happened in 2004. Now, is Prime Minister Modi not worried about these things, except that he has to benefit the cronies, the crony capitalists, and therefore he comes up with a huge project called the Great Nicobar project?
See, Mr. Modi, if you follow politics, he loves to go for scale, right? Gigantic, supernatural, big. Demonetization was big. Suddenly the whole country came to a standstill. Everything is about scale. He loves that melodramatic impact because he's discovered that we love big size, hyper kinetic soap operas. He feeds into that and he encourages it. Now think about it logically. If you and I were the prime minister and we found India under this heat wave, the first thing you would do is to call your ministers and say, guys, let's focus on how to keep this country green and cool. And for that, we'll have to make adjustments, compromises, maybe tax some people heavier. But we got to change this because the future generations are going to pay a huge price. And a lot of the future generations are hopefully going to watch your program. That's your Gen Alpha or even Gen Z, who are going to be at some point leading this country forward. Now, they should be worried. They should be extremely worried. I'm telling you something, Neelu, in all fairness, please do not look at this Great Nicobar project in isolation. Juxtapose that with the hottest cities in the world and also to the most polluted cities in the world. I mean, and these are, by the way, not just the big cities. Please let me point that out. Today, the hottest cities are not just the metropolitan or the cosmopolitan cities. They have now spread into the interiors of India, which means the interiors of India, which were earlier expected to be more rural, more green, less impacted by industrialization and therefore not really infiltrated by too much of infrastructure, were meant to be more natural in terms of their living conditions. Even they are actually facing what I would call is a structural ecological erosion. In these circumstances, what Rahul Gandhi says is not about politics. I think he's doing what I believe a leader should do, is to talk about the country as a whole in a bipartisan way, because even a bhakt who's watching your program or a fanatical Modi toady, whoever it is, needs to worry. Rahul Gandhi is fighting for you. And this is the language a prime minister should be speaking. But, Mr. Modi will come on some podium in the next couple of days, sponsored by some big industrialists. He will use a prepared teleprompter to say India needs to be green. And suddenly that will be the headline. And everybody else will believe, you know what? Modi ji is so environmental friendly. You see, in a country where we have begun to applaud a headline, one tweet, and some kind of a speech, and we don't get into the details, then we are going to definitely pay a price for that. And I want to make one point before you come to your next question. I was opening today's newspapers, the pink papers, and I want to link this to your questions that you've asked of me today. Did you read that? Google is apparently planning to make a $15 billion investment in AI data centers. Okay, let me point this out for the benefit of your viewers. Ladies and gentlemen, watching Neelu's very popular program, the AI data centers are going to bleed our country by actually taking away our water, our natural resources, which is what water is. It's going to heat up this country. It's going to destroy the environment. and we will not be creating jobs what you have been told. In fact, our atmospheric temperatures will rise because data centers consume a lot of electricity, and they need to be cooled at a very high level, and for that they need even more electricity. And what we are finding is that Indian government under the current leadership is inviting, as we saw during that whole Galgotia,
The AI summit.
in the entire stand-up performance, that end of day we are inviting open AI and Amazon and whatever Perplexity. We are inviting Claude. We are inviting all the biggies into India for AI data centers. And these guys in America, the big tech guys, are using countries like ours to actually use our resources for nothing, just to feed into their code, just to feed into their entire AI, machines, where they're going to make huge monies. By the way, let me tell you, AI companies are valued at trillions of dollars. How many jobs can you create in a data center? I'm going to give you one example. I have a friend, by the way, who lives in Hyderabad. And he called and told me that he's worried because in the cities, it's not even happening away from the cities. They're creating data centers, and these big guys, Adani, Ambani, and all these guys are going to create data centers because they have enough money to buy land, to create the infra, because this is nothing but digital infrastructure. There are no brains required for it. They will make money because these guys will pay them. India and the Indian citizens are going to pay through the nose, and we're going to be suffering enormously, not just with heat, but with the fact that it's going to destroy India's ecology at such a fast rate that by the time we complain and realize what it will be, I think Mr. Modi and the whole government will be out of power for 20 years. It'll be too late. It's an early warning, and I would like to say that.
I mean, what do you expect the government to say? Government will say that, look what happened in Hormuz Strait. Now the nations are becoming so dependent on the maritime trade. Now here we will open another, a pathway for India where it will lead to a lot of maritime trade. But keeping that, I mean, I also want to talk about the maritime trade. Does it encourage that? Plus, what kind of a risk is it as far as the maritime security is concerned, which no one is talking about? Do you think that this Great Nicobar project is going to be a huge maritime security risk as well?
Well, if you listen to the government's propaganda, I call it propaganda because it's very hard to trust a government which is so opaque. Even this GDP is suspect. You don't know what their numbers truly are. So they will bring in national security. You see, it's very easy to do anything in this country ever since Mr. Modi became prime minister by invoking words like national security. Now, the moment you say national security, people say, now, how do I argue against that, right? Because, hey, it makes people vulnerable. It doesn't mean that we can be threatened by a foreign power. Does it mean that there can be some kind of a risk to ordinary people because of any kind of threat from a foreign entity? Now, these are issues that are raised very conveniently because it suits the government's narrative. Remember, that this is the same government that used national security to not give disclosures to the Supreme Court on the Pegasus issue, saying that, hey, listen, sometimes we need to actually snoop on people because of national security. So we are living in a very unique world. And I want to say this again. Please link, whether it's Aravali, whether it's a Great Nicobar project, whether it's the multiple places, by the way, in Chhattisgarh, Madhya Pradesh, Bihar, Jharkhand, wherever, you find that land has been given away. And it's not just land, it's a forest on the land. I mean, you're talking about precious natural resources, right? And who gets displaced? It's a poor tribal population of India, right? I mean, I want to tell you the story that I think India needs to hear. The story of, I think, Jatin Mundu, the poor person from Odisha, who had to literally for 19,402 rupees.
Yeah.
Okay, he's a tribal person from Odisha, and we all know that Odisha is another country, another state with rich natural resources. And look at the state of a tribal there, right? And he actually went and excavated the dead body of his sister, which he then carried on his back to show to a bank to get whatever money she had left behind there. That is a state of deprivation devastation, poverty, hunger, and the wretched state of a large part of India. So when the government of this country, you see, when you use words like development, industrialization, growth, jobs, national security, these are very easy to drop jargons that can create a spin and people don't know how to argue with them. By the time the entire country pays a monumental cost on account of environmental degradation or an ecological imbalance that is created, these politicians won't be there in power, or they will be all 100 years old. And the young who are currently probably children or just about entering college will be left holding the baby. And I think as responsible citizens, Rahul Gandhi has spoken up. I think, kudos to him for doing that. And I'm glad you're holding a program on it, because I can promise you no TV channel is going to discuss this today at 8, 9, or 10.
Absolutely, absolutely. In fact, I was looking at the kind of arguments which are coming from the government side or the government supporters, even the maritime experts, what they are saying. I'll just give you one or two points, and then maybe you can give your reaction on that. Now, the supporters of the government or the supporters of the project say that the island lies just 90 kilometers from the southern tip of the Malacca Strait, which is one of the world's busiest maritime choke points. Now, the project proposes a naval-capable deep water port, upgraded airfield and surveillance infrastructure, enhancing India's ability to monitor the sea lanes in the eastern Indian Ocean, deter hostile presence, and strengthen maritime domain awareness. Now, that is one argument which is coming in support of the Great Nicobar project. And there's another point which is also coming up, is that in the larger Indo-Pacific context and under the Act East policy, India seeks to project its influence, secure sea lanes, and reduce dependence on foreign transshipment hubs like Colombo and Singapore. And this project is pitched as a game changer in that context. So we know where the government is headed to. So no matter how many videos Rahul Gandhi does, I'm sure the government is going to keep on arguing on this point and try to prove that they are right.
Well, Neelu, let me tell you something. I mean, that this government is a past master at sleight of hand, in deception and chicanery. This is the same government, right, that talked about the Chabahar port. Have you seen how they have abandoned that entire investment? Yes. This is the same government that talks of national security. And can we know why it took them so long to even contain the madness that was going on in Manipur? I mean, who are these guys to give us a lecture on national security? I mean, we have seen how we have handled our foreign policy today. I mean, ever since Pakistan stole the thunder literally under our nose by becoming the troubleshooter in the US-Iran negotiations, no TV channel is discussing foreign policy anymore between 8 to 9, because it's very uncomfortable for the government to look red-faced and blushing with embarrassment, or flushed with absolute repugnance at their failure. But here is the truth, that if you look at India's history, and I'm not studied the maritime issue that you're talking about in detail, but so far India did well, right? I mean, you got to think about why does the government suddenly, you see, if you want to find a reason, then frankly speaking, the entire length and breadth of this country at any point needs national security. I mean, you can have a port all across. Why don't we have ports across the entire length, the entire peninsula? You can, because after all, somebody can come in through anywhere. It happened in 2611. It can happen, frankly, every part which is connected to the waters, Arabian Sea or the Indian Ocean, create a port. So it's very easy for the government to do it. So I'm not even going to get into that argument. I mean, this is the same government, right? When an American submarine went and torpedoed an Iranian warship, this government wasn't even aware. In fact, they issued a press release after 24 hours. So, I mean, there is a lot of work for this government to do. Everybody's aware that, we need more modernized equipment in our army, right? Do we have them? I mean, this government doesn't have focus. I'm telling you, this is what I call as a bullet train government. This government cannot maintain your trains. Accidents will happen. Things will be haywire. But we want a bullet train. You know why? Because when the first bullet train comes, this obsession with first, Modi ji created the first bullet train. Have you noticed that entire campaign is Modi ji was the first to do it? Whether it's good for the country, it doesn't matter. But Modi ji is the first one to do it. That's their whole obsession. But this is, let me tell you, if you look at history, this is a fascist mindset. It's very authoritarian, is driven by self-interest, is driven by power, and obviously, to make that work, you need big ticket money, and therefore, crony capitalism always flourishes where fascists are in power.
I was reminded of a very interesting tweet put out by Saurabh Das today, the journalist and the environmentalist and activist. He actually put out the picture of Prime Minister Modi holding the Trishul and the Damru, and then he was saying if Prime Minister is so much focused on these kind of photo shoots, then I'm wondering who is running the PMO, the Prime Minister's office, because in the last 12, 13 or rather 14 days, we've seen him spending time at the Jhalmuri stall. Then he goes about at the Hooghly River. Then he goes to the temples in West Bengal. And today he's at Kashi Vishwanath. So my last question to you, Sanjay, is who's running the PMO? And has Prime Minister Modi already locked the PMO and gone away?
Well, to be very frank with you, and one data point, India's GDP in the last 7 years has been 5.5%. Mr. Modi has been not just a disappointing performance, his has been the most disastrous performance in the history of India's politics. Here is a man who came on development. India, over the last 12 years under his prime ministership, has grown by 6.2%. And these numbers, by the way, are also alleged by many to be inflated and exaggerated by 2%. But even if you assume that the 6.2% is right, it's lower than what Dr. Manmohan Singh gave after 10 years, which was 7.8%. In fact, UPA's last year's performance, on which it was voted out, was 6.4%, higher than what Mr. Modi has done over 12 years. So the answer is very straightforward. You have a prime minister who believes in optics. He believes he can successfully make the people of India buy his spin. So far, a lot of people have bought into that story. And that, I think, is India's tragedy. Because I think what has happened, in my opinion, he's captured all the institutions, primarily big media. The big media has never let the ordinary people of this country know the truth of what's going on, whether it's corruption, whether it's communal hate politics, whether it's a disastrous foreign policy, the neighborhood security, the state of agriculture, the collapsed investment. I mean, India is, frankly speaking, at the moment, a very compromised country and an underperforming nation. So whether Mr. Modi is not doing it himself or he's deputed someone to do the job, it does not matter. His government, as far as I'm concerned, is a mammoth F.
No, but you rightly put it out that it's a mammoth F. But if in the end, if I may just bring you back to the Great Nicobar project, what is it emblematic of? When you look at Modi's policies, where does it stand? The Great Nicobar project, is it an offshoot of Modi's failure? Is it an offshoot of Modi's compromise? How would you look at it?
Well, I can tell you the reason why Mr. Modi, in my opinion, gets an F grade is because he runs this country from one election cycle to the other. He's got zero vision. He doesn't, I think, understand anything about governance or economy or foreign policy beyond, is it a headline? Can I go into a TV channel and see my face? I don't think he has any clue of what it means for the future at all. Zero. And I'll give you an example. That's the reason why the Great Nicobar project that Rahul Gandhi has talked about should be a worry for all of us. And because, see, this is about biodiversity. This is about climate change. I'm telling you, Aravali, nobody talks about it. We wake up during winter and worry about Delhi. But Aravali is about, hey, air and water for the Delhi NCR region as well. Who cares for that? Mr. Modi doesn't live in the moment. A leader is supposed to talk about, hey, what are you doing for me now, right? But he will talk about 2047. For God's sake, post-COVID, or rather post-West Asia war, people's plans are 3 months, 6 months at max. Today, no company is making plans for 6 months or 9 months. People are making quarter-to-quarter plans. Nobody knows where the rupee is going to go or what's going to happen to oil prices. Mr. Modi has given this country a spin of 2047. Or he's living in the past. Aurangzeb, Akbar, Birbal, poor Jawaharlal Nehru, Congress to hai hi baitha hua, jisko aap lagate raho. This man doesn't live in the moment. Either he's living in the past or he's living in the future. And you read anyone with any management or spiritual sense, they will tell you, hey, live in the moment, right? Tell me what you're doing for me now. which is why you find neither this government nor Mr. Modi ever use the words Achhe Din anymore. If you want Achhe Din, you will have to be a citizen who asks questions. And I think the people watching your program, if they ask questions, they get involved and they graduate beyond the WhatsApp university, then I think India still has hope.
All right. Always a pleasure talking to you, Sanjay. Thank you so much for joining on HW News. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bye.